Okay, we are recording. Are we recording? Yeah, we should be recording.
Okay,
We're on there
so
now.
so last night was night 4 of the Democratic Convention. It was pretty extraordinary, um, and everybody's saying Donald Trump is going to say this, Donald Trump is going to say that, but everybody has to understand that whatever he says is a lie. He's a liar. It's not his economy. It was Obama's economy that he inherited after George W. Bush completely fractured it. And then Obama managed to, and then Trump managed to kill it by giving $1 trillion to the wealthy people and screwing everybody else.
But we know that. But the question is, the people that vote for him, the group that votes for him, they don't believe it's a lie. They take, oh, Obama didn't do anything. Obama is the worst president there ever was. They're eating it.
I understand that, and they also believed Hitler when they said that it was the Jews' fault.
Well, but how do we change people's minds
true.
to vote for him? I know.
I mean, look, it's just not true. There's a truth and there are lies. Okay, okay. COVID-19 didn't disappear like Trump said it would. It didn't disappear. 175,000 Americans are dead after he said it would disappear. Does that count? Is that provable? Obama did that? I mean, really? I mean,
yeah, but in the same way,
how many 50 million people are out of work?
I don't want to work as a devil's advocate, but it's the same way that Trump has been for the last 3 years, saying everything is false, fake news. And the people, when I speak to people, say, oh, that's fake news, that's fake news.
Yeah, tell the families of the 175,000 people that are dead, including my mother, that it was fake news.
Right.
I mean, look, people believe all kinds of crap. They really did. They elected George W. Bush, who was a shit president. They elected Richard Nixon, who was a criminal going in. The last decent Republican president was Eisenhower.
Well,
really?
I mean, still people swear by Ronald Reagan.
I don't, right. And he was a crook.
I don't know about a crook, but he wasn't that good.
He was a criminal. He did criminal acts. He was a criminal in court, in the Senate. And he even eventually said, well, in my heart, I thought I was doing the right thing. But that's not an excuse.
But for a minute, let's stop knocking Trump, which we could do for now till the election. What did you think of the Democratic platform and how they came across yesterday?
Wait, I'm going to walk you over because I got to get my hearing aid. I can't make this damn thing loud enough, but I don't want to lose you.
Okay, you can't lose me. You're stuck with me.
I have to be able to hear. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. You have to hear.
I don't care what anybody says. Ultimately, there's a right and a wrong. Murder is wrong. Stealing from somebody else is wrong. There are certain things that are wrong. There are people who believe that racism is okay. They believe that black people aren't the same as white people, even though the history says completely different. So if you don't believe what's in front of you.
I've lived that all my life as Jewish people, and both of us are Jewish. We know that Jews are inferior.
If you believe Trump, after he lied 20,000 times, he lies every minute. Obama spied on him. No, he didn't. The Senate just came out with a report, a bipartisan Senate. A bipartisan Senate, Republicans and Democrats came out with a report that says that it's not true. And yet yesterday he said he was spying and got caught.
Right. Well,
no, Senate, he didn't get caught, but 7 of his people got caught.
Out that there was a big Russian connection, short of collusion.
It was collusion.
Yeah, well, they didn't say it was collusion. I think or at least.
It was. Yeah, I know. And if it smells like shit, it looks like shit, it's probably shit.
But getting back, what do you think of how the convention came off? Biden's speech. Did you hear Biden yesterday?
I think you got to know what a gentleman Joe Biden is. I mean, he didn't know when he went to that woman's funeral who donated to him $18 when he first started running. He didn't know that the rabbi was going to tell that story. He didn't do it for any reason, and he didn't know that that kid was going to be on the show. He didn't know anything. He got the kid's phone number who stuttered because he had the same affliction and he wanted to help.
Right.
Trump doesn't want to help anybody,
right.
except his friend. Doesn't that say something to people who have to go to work every day?
Right.
I mean, look, we can argue this point day and night. Slavery was wrong. It's a fact. It was wrong. And the Democrats at the time, because they were the ones who wanted slavery, were wrong. And Lincoln was right. But Lincoln wouldn't survive in the Republican Party today. He would never get elected.
Well,
They would never let him in.
There's a decimation of the Republican Party. The Republican Party is not the Republican Party. It's Trump's party.
Yes, it is. It's what Trump made it.
Right.
It is a Republican Party.
But
It's not the Republican Party. I remember I've been to the White House 2 times, unfortunately under Republican presidents, both Reagan and both of them were under Reagan, actually.
Hopefully you get invited again under a Democratic rule.
Well, it'd be nice, but I sat at a table with Tip O'Neill at the Organization of American States dinner. I sat at a table with him and my wife and myself and his daughter and a few other people. And Tip O'Neill was writing a book and I was managing Robert Guillaume at the time. So he was asking me for advice on how to negotiate a book. And I told him, I said, ask for a lot, and if whatever they offer you say, are you crazy? Because that's how I work with Robert, and I got him 20% of the show eventually. So, and we sat and talked, and he would tell me how that every week almost, at the end of the week, before he went back home or before the weekend, he would sit with Ronald Reagan, the Republican, and have a drink. Tip O'Neill, the Speaker of the House, and Ronald Reagan, the President. And they would sit and talk about how to do things in a way that there's some compromise, and they would get things done, and they got things done. Now, there's no compromise with the administration. It's their way or no way. That's not governance.
Well, that's one of the things. The notes that I made is because Trump wanted to talk about his accomplishments, and as far as I'm concerned, he didn't accomplish anything. He's talking.
Who did?
Trump wanted to. I mean, his first big thing was with Kim Jong-un, with a peace with North Korea, with them not doing any nuclear weapons, and he was played by him. He was played like Kim Jong-un played him like a virtuoso violin.
What about Papa Putin, his daddy?
Papa Putin.
Is his daddy. Putin is the daddy now that he can please.
And in fact, he didn't say anything. I haven't heard anything about this latest poisoning, and I don't think he said anything. I might have missed it.
How much you have to hear? He didn't stand up for the troops that there was a bounty on, right? He didn't stand up for anything at Helsinki the Russians did, according to the Senate, bipartisan, did interfere with our election.
Right.
I think we got Trump elected. I think Trump doesn't get elected. With all the BS about Hillary did this and didn't do that, and Benghazi and Benshmazi, the bottom line is the Russians interfered and they made the difference. 70,000 votes made that difference. I don't even doubt that they actually played around with the machines, okay? That's what I believe. I believe they changed the votes in the machine. It's easy enough to do that.
Okay, I don't think there's any proof of that.
President who got into office illegally, and so did, in a way, George W. Bush. The Supreme Court voted 5-4 to make Florida stop counting votes. Who ever believed we were living in a country that would stop counting votes? The whole thing about our country is a democracy. Every vote counts, but the ones in Florida didn't count.
It's like 1984. All animals are created equal, but certain animals are more equal than others.
Tammy Duckworth said, we can't even afford 4 more minutes of Trump, let alone 4 more years.
Yeah, but the question is, he got into office, and one of his things, he says, the art of a deal, I can make things happen. And he
He
hasn't
didn't.
made anything happen. I mean,
He
we
didn't
still
write the
have
book.
as far as foreign relations, I think we're in worse shape, far worse shape than what we were when he came in. He said he was fix up our medical insurance and get rid of Obamacare and put something in far greater. And then I think 2 years later, he says, gee, I didn't know this was so hard.
And he also said today that he's going to get rid of Social Security and Medicare.
Well, that's the
And
other
he
thing.
wants to get rid of the post office.
Well, that's the other thing. If he gets rid of, he said definitely, if he's reelected, he'll get rid of the payroll tax. The payroll tax is what supported Social Security and Medicare.
If he's
And
elected,
Mnuchin says, oh, they have enough money, but they don't have enough money.
anything he says is look, with all due respect, he lied 20,000 times. It was calculated. 20,000 lies. And he lied every day. Everything he says is a lie.
But
Obama was spying on him and he got caught.
But
That
again,
wasn't
I have
today.
my main question is, how are you going to get the people who vote for him believe that he's a liar and that he's anti-Semitic, anti-Latino, anti-Black?
I think I'm not concerned about people voting for him. I'm more concerned about them fucking around with the votes. I'm more concerned about voter suppression. I'm more concerned about the vote mail-in ballots. This whole thing about mail-in ballots. He votes by mail-in ballots. How much have a hypocrite? How do you not see that? He sits there and him and his whole staff send in their ballots and mail-in ballots, right? And now he says mail-in ballots are no good. But I use them.
Did you see the Postmaster General today in the hearing?
I was thrown up.
If you want to get sick here, but going,
I want to see Katie Porter get a hold of it.
But going back to the Biden speech and what they're doing, basically, the word that I hung on to, which I think is most important to me, is he's going to put back the soul in this country. This country has lost its soul. Now I go back. I mean, the same way as you. I'll go back to the Kennedy administration, going back to that was 1960, 61. And this country had a purpose. This country represented, the good in the world, even though it screwed up a little bit, especially with the Vietnamese War. But basically, we represented democracy. We represented people could come here to better themselves, for freedom of religion, to be able to, for their family to get better, to go up in class where they couldn't in their own country. Now what we have, I feel that the government is run by a bank. I mean, basically, we're not looking for the underclass people to come in so they can help themselves. We want to keep them out because they're poor. They're poor, they have no money, and they're dirty. And of course, listen, and they're not white.
Don't say we. This country didn't lose its soul. This country's soul was buried by POTUS wipe. That's what he did. He buried the country's soul. Him and Mitch McConnell. Come on, Mitch McConnell wouldn't even entertain Merrick Garland because it's the last year of President Obama's administration, so we don't have to do that. Nonsense. The things that they say, there's a memo that says the president can't be indicted. It's just a memo. It's not part of the Constitution. That's baloney. So what we have is A.G. Barr and Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump. The rest of them are dippy shits. They don't mean anything.
We have government
those three have buried America's soul. And you know how easy it is to get America's soul back? Get this asshole out of office. Yeah. That's how. And you'll be surprised. All of a sudden, Executive Order 9265, soul is back. It's going to be that simple.
Well, let's hope. The thing
you're not going to change his base's evilness and their affinity for dictators and for racism. You're not going to change that. But the majority of the people in this country, 60% or more,
are good.
Are just people like you and me who want to make a buck, who want to have their family, who want to enjoy, come home to dinner every night, see their wife, hug her, kiss her, whatever you can get away with, whatever guys can get away with when they can, you know, and that's all they want. They want to eat. They want to live a nice life. They want to send their kids to school. And we grew up, you and I grew up in an age of that. After World War II, it all happened. There was enough money in a family if the one spouse worked. Medical costs were not nearly what they are now. I mean, they were a fraction. I remember the doctor came to my house, and if that my father didn't have any money, he said, "Don't worry about it." Okay? And I remember he used to come to the house. It was like $2 or $4 a visit. You know, I mean, it was amazing. Now you walk into his office, it's $200-300 before you turn around.
You just reminded me.
Oh, wait, here. Wait. Oh, just a minute. Wait a minute. Okay. Here, put on. Okay, let me see. Here's your finger thing, right? Okay, here it is. Wait. Okay, let me see. Okay. All right, that's $200. Next. You know, I mean, and they can't help it because they made it impossible.
You make me think of an old movie. By the way, I go into tangents and things when you speak or somebody speaks and I think of something else. There's a movie called The Last Angry Man. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's based on the book with Paul Muni.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, and it's about a Jewish doctor in a section of Brooklyn, and originally it was a good section. He lived there, but he lived there like 50, 60 years. He was an old man, and yet still he took people in his office and they didn't necessarily pay. It happened to be an African-American group that lived there.
Yeah,
and he would do house calls.
Look what Biden does. Biden goes over to somebody and says, "How are you?" He just says it. "How you doing? What's the matter?" He does it. He talks to people. He wants to know about them, whoever they are. That little girl or that kid who stuttered. He cares.
He cares.
Could you see Trump doing that? No, because someone who stutters is not a perfect human being.
Well, they showed that making fun of that guy who had a Parkinson's disease, a reporter
he made
who was
fun
shaking.
of the guy.
But also,
if Obama did one thing.
That's a call. Anybody important?
I don't know. I should turn this off. Okay.
Anyway, another thing I wanted to bring out today, based on the story of yesterday with Steve Bannon. Yeah, no one said, no one has used the expression. I'm waiting for one of the reporters to do. Birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Now Steve Bannon, one of the good friends of the president, Roger Stone, Michael Flynn, Michael Cohen, Paul Manafort, Rick Gates, George Papadopoulos.
7.
All convicted
or indicted or copped a plea.
Right, but no one says, "Oh,
7 people, the most of any 3-year, 4-year administration ever. Even Nixon, Nixon was an 8-year administration.
Yeah. Well, Nixon's the only one that maybe came close. But it's funny.
What about the criminals that haven't been indicted yet? For example, Steve Mnuchin. Steve Mnuchin was told by the House, by Neil, the chairman of the committee, that he wants Trump's tax returns. And according to the law, you shall hand over the tax return of any request by the chairman of that particular committee, right? You shall, not you might. You have to consider it. You have to think about it. You shall, the word shall. He didn't do it. By not doing it, he is liable for imprisonment and a fine. And the Democrats have never held him accountable. And I hope they hold this DeJoy accountable. Because what he's doing to the post office is illegal. He's destroying equipment. That's not your job.
Right.
That's not the job of the Postmaster General.
Well,
all these people are criminals. They are. There's no.
I think you have.
She's making deals. Mitch McConnell's wife is making deals specifically to make money for Kentucky when she represents all the people in this country. The guy who's the head of HUD is a moron. He's like, duh.
Well, he's only
Pompeo is a criminal. But did Pompeo say anything about the bounty on American troops, the head of the State Department? No. No. Or anything about don't interfere with our elections? No.
Well, a lot of the heads of the various departments are the acting heads because they could never pass the Senate. They never
Right.
could pass.
And that's something that if this country survives and if the Democrats get it in, they're going to have to change that.
Yeah.
They're going to have to say that he can't stay for a year. You can pick an acting head for 3 months, and that's it. Then you have to choose somebody.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that Trump couldn't even choose. He couldn't even choose a transition team when he won. I mean,
Well, and I'm waiting for Michael Cohen's book to come out.
yeah, it should be interesting.
That should be interesting. But it's funny. All of these books that come out that really, say so many horrible things about Trump, and it's like water rolling off his back, a duck's back.
But it's not rolling off.
Nothing sticks to him.
But it is sticking to him. He's losing. He has to cheat to win. Why do you think he has to do all of this stuff? Because he knows if the election is legitimate and straight, he's going to get whooped. He's going to get whooped.
I know, but I don't underestimate him.
No, I'm not.
Because I did it one time. I did it in 2016 saying, how the hell could he become president? Well, initially, it's how the hell could he be nominated?
Well.
And look what happened 4 years later.
Became president. Look, he was aided and abetted by people who took people off the voter rolls that shouldn't have been.
Well, forget about how about his nomination.
Voter suppression played a big part. And all of the stuff that he said that people believed, then people didn't go to the polls. And by not going to the polls, they gave him the election. If everybody would have went to the polls. See, the funny part about it all is there are more Democrats than Republicans by a lot, especially and with independents. With the amount of Democrats and independents, we should win in a walk. We have the majority. All we have to do is go to the polls and vote, no matter what it takes. And as I said last time, people have represented the United States of America in battle, have clawed through the mud, have been shot at and killed, have been shot down, have been sunk. Okay, and people like all of the civil rights people have gotten beaten up, and
John Lewis,
those four guys who went down south and were murdered, for being part of the NAACP. Okay, we owe them to crawl through the mud, to do whatever it takes to go and vote for Joe Biden and get this moron out of office.
Well, that's what Michelle Obama said.
That's right.
You got to pack your lunch if you have to wait online for, you have to pack your lunch, your dinner, and your breakfast.
I wrote it in one of the blogs I did, on MalcolmDigitalRadio.com.
But I'll tell you, the Obama's speech, Barack Obama's speech, was so great.
Well, do you remember how many different blogs I wrote about that subject, that it's the last one, it's going to be our last election if he wins, and that our democracy is hanging in the balance?
Right, but by the way,
I even wrote an article about John Roberts.
Right, but by the way, when people go now to MalcolmDigitalRadio.com, go to Phil Margo, The Lying Roars, we're going to have initially, which I'm calling this our Zoomcasts. From now on, we're going to be Zoomcasting.
Oh, good.
But you go below that, you have all your blogs from the last year or so.
Yeah, and a lot of them, and in a lot of them, as you will admit, I covered all this stuff that they covered. I said all that, and now they were even talking about. He was talking about laying a water pipeline last night. I wrote that letter to Jimmy Carter in 1977 that we should have a national water pipeline, because the only problem with the weather is the fact that water cannot be transported to where it's needed from where it's not needed. Like when there are floods and stuff, the water should immediately be transferred to places that need the water. If oil can be transferred and gas can be transferred across pipelines, why not water, the most essential ingredient to life? There's no reason for any state to ever have to have a drought, ever. Because We have, it's called the Great Lakes. It has 20% of the water, of the fresh water in the world. We have 20% of the fresh water in the world right in the middle of our country.
Well, you don't even have to, water is wasted. All this rain that we have in California, it all goes down the sewer. There, I think it's Denmark or Norway that are building these reservoirs that
Yes.
catch the water and process it and take it to the reservoirs all over their country. We don't do anything like that with water, as far as I know.
We don't. I mean,
It rains in
we
California.
don't do. I have an electric car and I have solar on my roof, so I can speak with some truth to the fact that I have bought about, and I have the car 2.5 years, this particular car, I have bought about 12 gallons of gasoline. And that's only because it uses gasoline up on its own because it can't sit in the tank. So it uses the gas. So if you don't use the gasoline, it does burn some of it off. That's the only reason why I use any gas.
Well, just a few years ago, I don't know what car it was, but you were the first electric car that I was in. I remember you driving, and then
Right.
when we stopped at a red light or a stop sign, just went dead.
It stopped.
It
Yeah,
stopped.
it doesn't do anything. It
And I
doesn't.
said,
No, but it still draws power to the car.
Right.
The control panel is lit, everything, but the engine stops. But I get a special rate from Edison so I charge it overnight. So I pay like, I don't know, 11 cents a kilowatt. So it costs me very little, much less than gasoline. And it's clean. And I have solar on my roof, not the whole roof, but I have enough to make a big difference.
well, that's a big difference between Trump and Biden, just on a practical level. Is Biden is talking about developing new sources of energy, clean sources of energy,
But
and
it's
Trump
oil.
and Trump is talking about oil and coal. He's going back to the old days.
You know why? It's not the old days. It's that the people who are running him. Look, this whole thing about, I really believe in my heart of hearts, this whole thing about opening up the economy, which should never have been done, was all instigated by the oil companies. Why? Because the oil companies don't make as much money when the economy is not going. When people aren't traveling, when people aren't going in cars, when people are not using gasoline, going back and forth to work, when people are not going to school, all of that stuff, it's not using energy. And the reason why he was shoved to, and I'm afraid it's also Gavin Newsom too, who I'm very disappointed in, because he should have never opened up. I have proof that I told him not to before he did. I texted somebody I knew in Richard Bloom's office, who is our representative to Sacramento, state legislator. And I said, I have a text that said June 4th that said, don't do this. It's a mistake. Don't open. And they did anyway. And then why did I know? I'm not an epidemiologist. Why did I know? Because you see what happened in other states that did it.
And you also listen to scientists. You listen to the people, the medical people, the scientists, the people that specialize in this area that tell you what to do. And he said, and of course, Trump says,
do it.
And Trump says, no, I know better than them. I know better than anybody.
And the government of Florida and Georgia, criminals.
But the thing I don't understand, now most people, a majority of the people think that Trump is good for them economically, that it's good for the country. Now, I don't see it. First of all, I think it was 3 or 4 businesses which he went bankrupt. And who the hell goes bankrupt in the casino in Atlantic City?
Germany believed in Hitler. That's how that happened.
But number 2, what he's done is I don't understand the stock market.
He took credit for Obama's economy. That's what he did.
All right, but the thing is, the economy is still good for the rich people. What his tax
It's always good for the rich people.
His tax break
wait a minute. Do you realize what you just said? The economy is good for the rich people.
For the rich people.
You
But it's,
inherit $100 million from your father. How big can the economy be?
well, my father only left me 50 mil.
What?
My father only left me 50 mil to
No,
start
you
out
know
with.
what I mean. These people inherit a fortune that they had. A lot of these people are people who just had this money since their whole life.
I'm thinking,
Trump inherited $4.5 billion, whatever, it's $400 million from his father, or stole it, and he blew it.
but the economy now,
How do you blow $400 million?
I don't know, I'd like to try. But right now the economy or the stock market is up, but I almost said, my analogy is the stock market is like this phony set on the movie sets. They have a great facade, but you
Right.
walk in and it's empty.
The stock market is not going to continue to succeed because the people of this country are failing. And when the people fail, the economy fails.
Well, we're right.
What happens? How do we buy stuff? Who supports the companies that buy things? Even oil. Look what happened with oil when this started. The price of oil plummeted. Now, unfortunately, the price at the pump is not reflecting what the price of oil is because they get away with that shit.
But people
Oil should be $1.50 a gallon right now.
But people fail to realize that when Trump cut the taxes, it cut the corporate taxes, and now our deficit is like, I think, 3 times as much as it was. He's going to leave office.
The Republicans were deficit hawks.
Yeah, he's going to leave office.
Deficit and freedom.
We're going to be trillions of dollars in debt, more in debt.
Yes.
Than when he came. I think
and less free.
Yeah.
Now we have armed people wearing camouflage with no identification, walking our streets. They're going to be in the polling places too. They're going to intimidate voters unless we have a cop in every polling place.
Well, actually, he said they're going to have. Well, he wants marshals, federal marshals in the polling places.
Right.
That's what he said, but that's for the intimidation.
Yes.
That's for people to be afraid.
And they're going to go over to people and they're going to say, "What's your identification? Let me see it."
Right.
And what they should be told is, "Go fuck yourself." Okay. They can't have my identification unless they identify themselves. Who are you? I don't know who you are.
One of the polling places will have ID probably. They'll probably be in uniform or some sort of affidavit on there, a badge.
You know what? If we don't win this election, it doesn't matter. This country's over. You realize, everybody out there realize this. If this election is lost and Trump continues to be president, this country is over. The United States of America is over. The Constitution is fully shit on, wiped his ass, and thrown into the toilet.
Well, if Trump wins again, my wife says we're moving to Canada, so I'll be doing the show. I'll be moving the show from
somebody in Canada, your relative. I know someone who has a friend who actually left the United States for this virus. He's Canadian. And his wife is American, and they went up so the kids could go to school. Just so the kids could go to school.
Well,
they went to Canada.
Actually, my niece was going to Concordia up in, I think it's Montreal or Toronto, and they took her out.
Wow.
They took her out in beginning of the summer while they still could. But she was like in her second year there.
I don't know.
Excuse the expression.
Just everybody has to vote. Everyone has to vote. It's all we got left right now to defend ourselves. We have our vote, masks, and social distancing. That's what we got. That's what we got. Since 6 months, he hasn't manufactured. He hasn't gone to the companies and say, look, you need to manufacture PPE, you need to manufacture tests. He didn't do any of that. It's almost like he wants people to die. He wants people to die. He wants the chaos. He wants people to die. He doesn't care. It's what it is, he said. But it didn't come close to him yet. It's what it is.
No feeling.
His brother died. You think he gives a shit? He don't care. He could care less. We couldn't care.
In any event, Phil, we're finished with our time now. It's amazing how fast it goes.
I know.
Maybe we'll have to expand this to an hour.
No,
next time.
no, I get
No,
hoarse.
but actually, I think the next show before we get more into politics, well, I'd like to find out what you're doing and how you're surviving with the quarantine and what different things you were. Because
You know what? What I'm doing is immaterial. I would say I would spend the whole after a half hour of our show telling people to vote. That's what's at stake. I used to think that the United States of America would go on and on and on. It could stop this November. It could be over. Now, the only possibility that there is if somehow Biden loses, but we still get the Senate, we still might be able to save things. But if we don't win the Senate and we lose the presidency, this country is gone. Gone.
anyway, and
How do you like the fact that he's not signing up, he's not reinstituting the stimulus. They went on vacation. He wants people to suffer. He wants people to get evicted so that they can't vote. Because the people get evicted are people who would vote for Biden.
And anyway, Phil, that's our last word for this show. If anybody wants it, go over to malcolmdigitalradio.com. It's called, go to Phil Margo, The Lion Roars.
See,
The Lion Roars.
The lion is the lion.
Right.
See it?
And we're also on YouTube. And we're going to find out a way to get the show on live. So you can listen to YouTube and Facebook, even as we do it. And you can text us to ask questions. Anyway, Phil, have a good weekend.
You too. Take care, Malcolm.
Bye. Okay, we're off.
Good.
Speak to you later.
I could always come up with something. We
Bye.
talked about topical stuff. I mean, this is the only thing to talk about right now is getting rid of this guy, because he's not going to get rid of this pandemic.
Okay.
He's not going to do anything to stop it. He's not going to do anything to help the people.
But as I say, if you want, like, we could do like a regular times, like Monday at times and Friday at times.
We'll talk about it over the weekend.
Okay, kid. I'll
Be safe.
speak to you later. Bye.